I can't go back to you, my friend. Don't even ask, don't play pretend.
The sharp, metallic scent of hairspray lingered in the air as Megan stepped into our home, her usual aura of confidence tinged with a hint of uncertainty. Her normally flowing chestnut locks were replaced by a sleek, chin-length bob, styled in a way I had never seen before. "What do you think, Matt?" Megan asked tentatively, her fingers nervously brushing against the freshly cut strands. I studied her reflection in the hallway mirror, searching for the right words. "It's different," I finally replied, unable to mask the surprise in my voice. Megan's shoulders visibly sagged at my response, her gaze dropping to the floor. "I just wanted to try something new," she murmured, almost as if to herself. I reached out, gently tilting her chin up to meet my eyes. "Hey, it's just hair," I reassured her with a soft smile. "You still look beautiful." A flicker of relief crossed Megan's features, her lips curling into a small smile. "Thanks, Matt," she murmured, leaning in to press a quick kiss against my cheek. "I'm glad you think so." As Megan disappeared into the bathroom to freshen up, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that there was more to her sudden change than met the eye. Little did I know that haircut was only the beginning of a series of events that would unravel the fabric of our seemingly perfect life together. The revelation that my wife, Megan, was one of identical triplets sent shockwaves through my understanding of our relationship. As I delved deeper into this newfound knowledge, I uncovered layers of complexity I had never imagined. "So, Megan, you never thought to mention that you have identical sisters?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral as I sat across from her in our cozy living room. Megan shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting away from mine. "It never really seemed relevant," she replied hesitantly, her voice tinged with unease. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of frustration at her response. "Not relevant? Megan, they're your sisters?" I pressed, unable to mask the incredulity in my voice. Megan let out a sigh, running a hand through her newly cropped hair. "Look, Matt, it's complicated," she admitted, her gaze finally meeting mine. "Growing up as identical triplets, we've always been lumped together. People never saw us as individuals." I furrowed my brow, trying to make sense of her words. "But why keep it a secret? Why not tell me?" Megan hesitated, her expression pained. "We just wanted a chance to be seen as ourselves, not just as part of a set," she explained softly. "I didn't want our relationship to be defined by my sisters." I nodded slowly, beginning to grasp the weight of Megan's words. "I understand," I murmured, reaching out to take her hand in mine. "But secrets have a way of complicating things, Megan. We need to be able to trust each other." Megan squeezed my hand, her eyes brimming with emotion. "I know, Matt," she whispered, her voice tinged with regret. "I'm sorry." As we sat in silence, the enormity of Megan's revelation hung heavy in the air, casting a shadow over our once unshakable bond. Little did I know, this newfound knowledge was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our love and loyalty. In the days following the revelation about Megan's triplet sisters, I found myself hyper-aware of every interaction and nuance, searching for clues to unravel the mystery that now loomed over our marriage. It was as if a veil had been lifted, revealing a world of subtle signs and coincidences that had previously gone unnoticed. "Megan, have you noticed anything unusual about your sisters lately?" I asked one evening, unable to shake the feeling of unease that had settled in the pit of my stomach. Megan furrowed her brow, her gaze clouded with confusion. "What do you mean, Matt?" she replied, her voice tinged with concern. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the mounting suspicions that swirled in my mind. "It's just little things," I began carefully, choosing my words with precision. "Like the way they move or the things they say. It's almost as if they're interchangeable." Megan's eyes widened in realization, her hand flying to her mouth in shock. "You don't think?" She trailed off, unable to voice the thought that hung between us. I shook my head, my mind racing with possibilities. "I don't know what to think anymore," I admitted, my voice tinged with frustration. As the days passed, the signs and coincidences only seemed to multiply, each one adding to the growing sense of unease that pervaded our home. Whether it was the identical hairstyles or the uncanny timing of their injuries, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. "We need to talk to them," I insisted one evening, unable to ignore the gnawing sense of doubt that gnawed at my insides. Megan nodded in agreement, her eyes filled with apprehension. "I'll talk to them tomorrow," she promised, her voice barely above a whisper. Little did we know, this decision would set into motion a chain of events that would unravel the carefully constructed facade of our marriage, revealing truths we never could have imagined. As the suspicions surrounding Megan and her sisters continued to weigh heavily on my mind, I resolved to find a way to uncover the truth once and for all. It was in this moment of determination that I devised a plan, a subtle yet effective method of tracking Megan's movements and interactions with her sisters. "Megan, I need to talk to you about something," I began one evening, steeling myself for the conversation that was to come. Megan looked up from her book, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "What is it, Matt?" she asked, setting the book aside to give me her full attention. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "I've been thinking," I started slowly, choosing my words with care, "and I think it might be helpful if we kept track of certain things." Megan frowned, confusion knitting her brow. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice tinged with concern. I hesitated, unsure of how to broach the subject without causing alarm. I was thinking, what if we marked each other? I suggested tentatively, watching Megan's reaction carefully. Megan's eyes widened in surprise, her mouth falling open in shock. "Mark each other," she echoed, disbelief evident in her voice. I nodded, pressing on despite the growing unease that gnawed at my insides. "Just something small," I reassured her, reaching out to take her hand in mine. "A discreet way to keep track of things." Megan studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. "Okay, Matt," she finally relented, a note of resignation in her voice. "If it helps put your mind at ease, I'll do it." And so, with Megan's reluctant agreement, I embarked on a journey of deception and discovery, marking her skin with a small, indelible symbol that would serve as a silent witness to the truth. Little did I know, this decision would set into motion a chain of events that would change the course of our lives forever. The weight of deception hung heavy in the air as I confronted Megan about my suspicions, the tension between us palpable as we sat in the dimly lit living room. "Megan, we need to talk," I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil that churned within me. Megan shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her eyes darting away from mine. "What is it, Matt?" she asked tentatively, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that was to come. "I've been noticing some inconsistencies," I started slowly, choosing my words with care, "and I can't ignore them any longer." Megan's eyes widened in alarm, her hands fidgeting nervously in her lap. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice tinged with apprehension. I hesitated, unsure of how to broach the subject without causing further distress. "It's about your sisters," I confessed, watching Megan closely for her reaction. Megan paled at my words, her breath catching in her throat. "What about them?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts before continuing. "I've been noticing some strange coincidences," I admitted, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Things that don't add up, that don't make sense." Megan's eyes widened in realization, her face draining of color as the truth began to dawn on her. "Matt, she trailed off, unable to find the words to express the turmoil that churned within her. I reached out to take her hand in mine, offering what little comfort I could in the face of the storm that raged around us. "Megan, I need you to be honest with me," I implored, my voice gentle yet firm. "Tell me the truth." And in that moment of raw vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Megan finally confessed to the deception that had torn us apart. Little did we know, this confrontation was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our love and loyalty. The weight of secrets hung heavy in the air as Megan and I sat in stunned silence, grappling with the truth that had finally come to light. It was in this moment of raw vulnerability that Megan found the courage to speak, her words a hesitant whisper in the stillness of the room. "I'm sorry, Matt," Megan began, her voice barely above a whisper as she met my gaze with a mixture of shame and remorse. I should have told you sooner. I studied her face, searching for any trace of deception in her expression, but all I found was the raw vulnerability of someone who had been caught in a web of lies. Why, Megan? I asked, my voice tinged with a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Why keep this from me? Megan lowered her gaze, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. We just wanted a chance to be ourselves, she admitted softly, her words tinged with regret. To have something that was ours alone. I felt a pang of sympathy for Megan, knowing that the burden of being one of identical triplets had weighed heavily on her for years. I understand, Megan, I murmured, reaching out to take her hand in mine. But secrets have a way of unraveling, of causing more harm than good. Megan nodded, tears glistening in her eyes as she struggled to find the words to express the depth of her regret. I know, Matt, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Megan and I began the painful process of rebuilding what had been broken. Little did we know, this confession was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our love and loyalty. The air crackled with tension as Megan and I sat across from each other, the weight of our shattered trust hanging heavy between us. It was in this moment of uncertainty that I knew I had to make a decision, to lay bare the boundaries that would define the future of our relationship. Megan, I began, my voice steady despite the turmoil that churned within me. We need to talk about what happens next. Megan nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as she braced herself for the difficult conversation that was to come. I know, Matt, she whispered, her voice tinged with resignation. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I reached out to take her hand in mine, the gesture a silent reassurance of my love and commitment despite the betrayal that had rocked our marriage. I believe you, Megan, I murmured, my voice gentle yet firm. But there are things that need to change if we're going to move forward. Megan's brow furrowed in confusion, her gaze searching mine for answers. What do you mean, Matt? She asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation that was to come. I need you to make a choice, Megan, I explained, my words measured and deliberate, between me and your sisters. Megan's eyes widened in shock, her hands trembling in her lap as the weight of my ultimatum settled over us like a suffocating blanket. But, Matt, she trailed off, her voice choked with emotion. I held up a hand, cutting off her protest before it could take root. I'm not asking you to choose between us forever, I clarified, my voice softening with a note of understanding. But for now, I need to know that I'm your priority. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Megan and I began the painful process of rebuilding what had been broken. Little did we know, this ultimatum was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our love and loyalty. Doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind like a relentless tide, eroding the foundations of trust that had once anchored our marriage. It was in this haze of uncertainty that I found myself grappling with questions that had no easy answers, wrestling with the demons of suspicion and betrayal that lurked in the shadows. Megan, do you still love me? I asked one evening, the words heavy on my tongue as I searched her face for any trace of reassurance. Megan's brow furrowed in confusion, her eyes clouded with uncertainty. Of course I do, Matt, she replied softly, her voice tinged with hurt. Why would you even ask that? I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the doubts that churned within me. It's just, everything that's happened. I admitted, my voice tinged with frustration. I can't help but wonder if we'll ever be the same again. Megan reached out to take my hand in hers, the warmth of her touch a balm against the storm that raged within me. I understand, Matt, she murmured, her voice gentle yet firm. But we can't let doubt tear us apart. We have to fight for our marriage. I nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling over me like a heavy blanket. I know, Megan, I whispered, my voice barely above a whisper. I just don't know if I have the strength to keep fighting. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Megan and I grappled with the doubts that threatened to tear us apart. Little did we know, this chapter of uncertainty was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our love and loyalty. Struggling to come to terms with the situation, I found myself standing at a crossroads, the future of our marriage hanging in the balance like a delicate thread. It was in this moment of uncertainty that I grappled with the weight of my choices, torn between the desire to salvage what remained of our shattered bond and the fear of plunging deeper into a world of deceit and betrayal. Megan, I began one evening, my voice trembling with the weight of the decision that lay before me. We need to talk about where we go from here. Megan's eyes widened in alarm, her hands trembling as she braced herself for the difficult conversation that was to come. What do you mean, Matt? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the words that were to come. I've been doing a lot of thinking, I admitted slowly, choosing my words with care. And I don't know if I can continue on like this. The doubt, the uncertainty, it's tearing me apart. Megan's face fell, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as the weight of my words settled over her like a heavy blanket. But, Matt, she trailed off, her voice choked with emotion. I held up a hand, cutting off her protest before it could take root. I'm not saying this is the end, I clarified, my voice softening with a note of understanding. But we need to take a step back to reassess where we stand and what we want from this marriage. Megan nodded slowly, her gaze dropping to the floor as she struggled to come to terms with the gravity of my words. I understand, Matt, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of my heart. And I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Megan and I made the difficult decision to take a step back and reevaluate the future of our marriage. Little did we know this decision would set into motion a chain of events that would ultimately define the course of our lives. As I found myself mired in the depths of uncertainty, I retreated into the recesses of my mind, seeking solace in the memories of happier times that now seemed like distant echoes of a bygone era. It was in this journey of reflection that I questioned the authenticity of our past, grappling with a gnawing suspicion that perhaps our love had been nothing more than an illusion. Megan, I began one evening, my voice heavy with the weight of doubt that pressed down upon me like a suffocating blanket. Do you ever wonder if what we had was real? Megan's brow furrowed in confusion, her eyes searching mine for any trace of reassurance. What do you mean, Matt? She asked tentatively, her voice tinged with uncertainty. I hesitated, unsure of how to articulate the doubts that churned within me. I mean, all those moments we shared, the laughter, the intimacy, were they genuine? I admitted, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Megan's face fell, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as the weight of my words settled over her like a heavy fog. I thought they were, Matt, she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. I hope they were. I reached out to take her hand in mine, the gesture a silent plea for understanding in the face of the uncertainty that threatened to tear us apart. I'm sorry, Megan, I murmured, my voice tinged with regret. I need to know the truth. And so, enveloped in the shadow of doubt that now loomed over our once unshakable bond, Megan and I delved into the depths of our memories, searching for the elusive truth that lay buried beneath layers of deception and betrayal. Little did we know, this journey of reflection would ultimately lead us to the answers we so desperately sought, for better or for worse. Feeling adrift in a sea of uncertainty, I reached out to friends and family in search of guidance, hoping to find clarity amidst the chaos that engulfed my marriage. Yet, as I sought counsel from those closest to me, I found myself confronted with a cacophony of conflicting opinions, each one pulling me in a different direction. Mom, I don't know what to do, I confessed one evening, the weight of my doubts pressing down upon me like a heavy burden. My mother's brow furrowed in concern, her eyes brimming with maternal empathy as she reached out to take my hand in hers. Oh, sweetheart, I wish I had the answers for you, she murmured, her voice soft with compassion. But only you can decide what's best for your marriage. I nodded slowly, the words settling over me like a comforting embrace. I know, Mom, I whispered, my voice tinged with uncertainty. But I don't know if I can trust her again. Across town, I found myself seeking solace in the company of a trusted friend, pouring out my heart in a torrent of uncertainty and doubt. "Mike, what am I supposed to do?" I asked, frustration seeping into my voice as I struggled to make sense of the chaos that had overtaken my life. Mike leaned forward, his expression one of unwavering support, as he met my gaze with a mixture of empathy and understanding. "You have to follow your gut, man," he advised, his voice tinged with conviction. "If you can't trust her, then maybe it's time to move on." I felt a pang of doubt at his words, the uncertainty that had plagued me for weeks now reaching a fever pitch. "But what if I'm wrong?" I asked, the fear of making the wrong decision paralyzing me with indecision. And so, torn between the conflicting opinions of those closest to me, I found myself grappling with the weight of my choices, uncertain of which path to follow. Little did I know, this journey of seeking advice would ultimately lead me to the answers I so desperately sought, for better or for worse. Emotional turmoil gripped me like a vice, its relentless hold leaving me gasping for air as I struggled to navigate the turbulent waters of my own heart. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, every thought and emotion a whirlwind of conflicting desires and shattered dreams. "I don't know what to do," I confessed one evening, the weight of my uncertainty pressing down upon me like a heavy stone. Megan reached out to take my hand in hers, her touch a fragile lifeline in the storm that raged within me. "It's okay to feel lost, Matt," she murmured, her voice soft with understanding. "We'll figure this out together." But even her words of reassurance offered little comfort in the face of the overwhelming chaos that consumed me. Doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind like a relentless tide, eroding the foundations of trust that had once anchored our marriage. "I just don't know if I can do this anymore," I admitted, the words tasting bitter on my tongue. Megan's eyes filled with tears, her voice choked with emotion as she struggled to hold back the flood of tears that threatened to overwhelm her. "Please, Matt," she pleaded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Don't give up on us." And yet, despite the desperate plea in her eyes, I found myself adrift in a sea of uncertainty, the weight of my own doubts pulling me further and further away from the shore of our once unshakable bond. Little did I know, this chapter of emotional turmoil would ultimately lead me to the moment of truth that lay waiting on the horizon, a beacon of clarity in the midst of the storm. Confronting the harsh reality of my situation felt like staring into the abyss, the truth staring back at me with unrelenting clarity. As I grappled with the weight of my own unhappiness, I realized that I could no longer ignore the signs that pointed towards an inevitable conclusion. "I can't keep living like this," I confessed one evening, the words heavy on my tongue as I looked into Megan's eyes, searching for understanding amidst the wreckage of our shattered dreams. Megan's face fell, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as she struggled to come to terms with the magnitude of my words. "What do you mean, Matt?" she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the difficult conversation that was to come. "I mean that I can't keep pretending that everything is okay when it's not," I admitted, the weight of my own unhappiness pressing down upon me like a lead weight. Megan reached out to take my hand in hers, her touch a fragile lifeline in the storm that raged within me. "But we can work through this, Matt," she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. "We can fix what's broken." But even her words of reassurance offered little comfort in the face of the undeniable truth that lay before us. "I don't think we can," I murmured, my voice tinged with regret. "Sometimes, love just isn't enough." And so, with a heavy heart and a sense of resignation, I made the difficult decision to prioritize my own happiness above all else. Little did I know, this moment of facing reality would ultimately lead me down a path towards healing and self-discovery, a journey that would redefine the course of my life in ways I could never have imagined. The weight of the past hung heavy in the air as Megan's sisters, Melissa and Margot, stood before me, their faces etched with a mixture of remorse and regret. It was in this moment of shared vulnerability that they found the courage to speak, their words a hesitant whisper in the stillness of the room. "Matt, we're so sorry," Melissa began, her voice trembling with emotion as she met my gaze with a mixture of shame and humility. "We never meant to hurt you." I studied their faces, searching for any trace of sincerity in their expressions, and found only the raw vulnerability of those who had been caught in the web of their own deceit. Why? I asked, my voice tinged with a mixture of disbelief and hurt. Why keep this from me for so long? Margaret stepped forward, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as she struggled to find the words to express the depth of her regret. We were scared, she admitted softly, her voice barely above a whisper. Scared of losing each other, of losing our bond. I felt a pang of sympathy for them, knowing that the burden of being identical triplets had weighed heavily on their shoulders for years. I understand, I murmured, reaching out to take their hands in mine. But secrets have a way of unraveling, of causing more harm than good. Melissa nodded, tears glistening in her eyes as she braced herself for the difficult conversation that was to come. We know, Matt, she whispered, her voice choked with emotion, and we're willing to do whatever it takes to make things right. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, surrounded by the shattered remnants of our once unshakable trust, Melissa, Margot, and I began the painful process of rebuilding what had been broken. Little did we know, this apology was only the beginning of a journey that would test the limits of our forgiveness and resilience, a journey towards redemption and healing. With the wounds of betrayal still raw, I embarked on the daunting task of rebuilding trust, navigating the treacherous waters of our fractured relationship with caution and uncertainty. Each step felt like walking on thin ice, the fear of slipping back into old patterns a constant companion by my side. I want to trust you again, Megan, I confessed one evening, the weight of my words hanging heavy in the air as I looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of reassurance. Megan's gaze softened, her eyes brimming with unshed tears as she reached out to take my hand in hers. I know, Matt, she whispered, her voice tinged with regret, and I'll do whatever it takes to earn back your trust. But even her words of reassurance offered little comfort in the face of the overwhelming uncertainty that plagued me. Doubt gnawed at the edges of my mind like a relentless tide, threatening to drown out the fragile flicker of hope that burned within me. I just don't know if I can do this, I admitted, the weight of my own uncertainty pressing down upon me like a heavy burden. Megan's face fell, her eyes filled with tears as she struggled to come to terms with the magnitude of my words. Please, Matt, she pleaded, her voice tinged with desperation. Give me a chance to make things right. And so, with a sense of trepidation and a glimmer of hope, I began the slow and arduous process of rebuilding trust, knowing that the road ahead would be fraught with obstacles and setbacks. Little did I know, this chapter of rebuilding trust would ultimately lead me to a place of healing and redemption, a journey towards a future where trust was no longer a distant dream, but a tangible reality. With a mixture of trepidation and hope, I embarked on the journey of moving forward, cautiously embracing the possibility of reconciliation as I navigated the complexities of our fractured relationship. Each step felt like a tightrope walk, the fear of falling back into old patterns a constant presence in the back of my mind. I want to try again, Megan, I confessed one evening, my voice tinged with uncertainty as I looked into her eyes, searching for any sign of understanding. Megan's expression softened, a glimmer of hope shining in her eyes as she reached out to take my hand in hers. I do too, Matt, she murmured, her voice filled with sincerity, but we have to take it one day at a time. And so, with cautious optimism and a sense of determination, we began the delicate dance of rebuilding our relationship, knowing that the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. As we sat together in the quiet of our living room, I felt a sense of peace settle over me, the weight of the past slowly lifting from my shoulders. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, there was hope for us yet. And as we moved forward together, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what lay ahead, we would face it together, united in our commitment to each other and to the journey of healing and redemption that lay before us. Little did I know, this chapter of moving forward would ultimately lead us to a place of renewed love and understanding, a future where the scars of our past would serve as a reminder of the strength of our bond. In the gentle embrace of time, wounds that once seemed irreparable began to heal, their jagged edges slowly softening as we worked towards a renewed sense of trust and intimacy. Each day brought with it a glimmer of hope, a whispered promise of healing that echoed through the corridors of our hearts. I can feel us getting closer again, Matt, Megan confessed one evening, her voice filled with tentative optimism as she reached out to take my hand in hers. It's like we're finding our way back to each other. I smiled, a flicker of warmth spreading through me at her words. I feel it too, Megan, I admitted, my voice tinged with gratitude. But we still have a long way to go. And so, with patience and perseverance, we continued to nurture the fragile seed of our relationship, tending to it with care as it began to blossom and grow. With each tender moment shared and each heartfelt conversation had, we found ourselves inching closer to the restoration of the trust and intimacy that had once defined us. As we sat together under the soft glow of the moonlight, I felt a sense of peace settle over us, the weight of our past slowly lifting from our shoulders. In that moment, surrounded by the quiet embrace of the night, I knew that no matter what trials lay ahead, we would face them together, bound by the unbreakable bond of our love. And as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, we continued on our journey of healing, our hearts slowly mending as we worked towards a future filled with hope and possibility. Little did we know, this chapter of healing wounds would ultimately lead us to a place of newfound strength and resilience, a testament to the power of love to overcome even the deepest of scars. In the quiet moments of introspection, we found the courage to confront the underlying issues that had once threatened to tear us apart, striving to create a stronger foundation for our marriage as we addressed our differences with honesty and vulnerability. Each conversation was a delicate dance of understanding and compromise, as we worked tirelessly to bridge the gap that had formed between us. I think we need to talk about what happened, Megan suggested one evening, her voice tinged with apprehension as she broached the subject that had long been weighing on both of our minds. I nodded, grateful for her willingness to confront the past head-on. I agree, I replied, my voice soft with sincerity. We can't move forward until we've addressed what happened between us. And so, with a sense of determination and a willingness to listen, we embarked on the difficult task of unpacking the layers of hurt and resentment that had accumulated over time. Each word spoken was a step towards understanding, as we navigated the complexities of our shared history with compassion and empathy. As the evening wore on and the shadows lengthened, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, the weight of our unresolved issues slowly lifting from my shoulders. In the glow of the setting sun, we found common ground, our differences melting away in the warmth of our shared commitment to each other. And as we bid farewell to the ghosts of our past, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, stronger and more resilient than ever before. Little did we know, this chapter of resolving differences would ultimately lead us to a place of deeper connection and understanding, a testament to the power of love to overcome even the greatest of obstacles. In the gentle embrace of dawn, we found ourselves standing at the precipice of a new beginning, the promise of a fresh start beckoning us forward as we embarked on a journey of rediscovery and renewed commitment to each other. Each moment was infused with the possibility of a brighter future, as we cast aside the shadows of our past and embraced the dawn of a new day. I can't believe how far we've come, Megan remarked one morning, her eyes shining with hope as she looked out at the sunrise painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. It feels like we're starting over again, doesn't it? I smiled, a sense of gratitude swelling within me as I took in the beauty of the moment. It does, I agreed, my voice filled with wonder. And I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to begin anew with you by my side. And so, with hearts full of hope and spirits buoyed by the promise of a brighter tomorrow, we set out on a path of rediscovery, eager to explore the depths of our love and commitment to each other. Each day brought with it a sense of wonder and possibility as we embraced the joys of shared laughter and the comfort of quiet moments spent in each other's company. As we walked hand in hand along the winding path of our journey, I felt a sense of peace settle over us, the echoes of our past fading into the distance as we forged ahead towards a future filled with endless possibilities. In the light of the rising sun, we found solace in the knowledge that no matter what trials lay ahead, we would face them together, united in our commitment to each other and to the journey of rediscovery that lay before us. And as we watched the sun rise on a new day, I knew that this chapter of a new beginning would ultimately lead us to a place of greater understanding and deeper love, a testament to the enduring power of second chances and the resilience of the human spirit. In the crucible of our shared experiences, we emerged from the tumult stronger, wiser, and more deeply connected than ever before, our love standing as a beacon of hope amidst the darkness that had once threatened to consume us. In the end, it was love that prevailed, guiding us through the storm and leading us to a place of healing and redemption. It's amazing, isn't it? Megan mused one evening, her voice soft with wonder as she looked out at the stars shimmering in the night sky. How love can overcome even the greatest of obstacles. I nodded, a sense of awe swelling within me as I took in the beauty of the moment. It truly is, I agreed, my voice filled with gratitude, and I'm grateful every day for the love that we share. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and spirits buoyed by the knowledge of our enduring love, we embraced the future with open arms, knowing that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, united in our commitment to each other and to the journey of love that lay before us. As we stood together under the vast expanse of the night sky, I felt a sense of peace settle over us, the echoes of our past fading into the distance as we looked towards the horizon with hope and anticipation. In the quiet of the night, we found solace in the knowledge that no matter what trials lay ahead, we would face them together, bound by the unbreakable bond of our love. And as we bid farewell to the shadows of our past, I knew that this chapter of love prevailing would ultimately lead us to a place of greater understanding and deeper connection, a testament to the enduring power of love to overcome even the darkest of nights.